All right, so today we're diving deep into wire jewelry making.
Oh, fun.
But with a bit of a twist.
Okay.
We're not going to get bogged down in the how-tos.
Right.
Instead, we're focusing on the joy.
The joy?
The sheer joy of working with wire.
I like it.
Because I think a lot of people,
Yeah.
when they see those intricate wire jewelry pieces,
Yeah. They can be intimidating.
it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
It feels like
Huh.
you need to be super precise
Oh, yeah.
and like have a plan and execute it perfectly.
Definitely. And I think that's one of the things that kind of holds people back from even trying.
Absolutely. And I'll admit,
Yeah.
I hit a wall with wire work for a while
Really?
because I was so focused on trying to copy designs that I lost the joy of just playing with the material.
I see.
And that's where this idea of wire play comes in,
Yes.
which is a key theme in the material that we're looking at today.
Right.
But can you define wire play a little better for me?
Sure.
Because I think some people might think, well, I already play around with wire when I'm making jewelry.
Right.
Like, what's the distinction?
Yeah. So it is subtle but important.
Okay.
Wire play is about engaging with the wire with absolutely no agenda and no pressure to produce any specific thing. It's like doodling with wire.
I like that.
You're not trying to make a pendant or a ring or anything like that.
Right.
You're just exploring shapes, textures,
Yep.
and how the wire feels in your hands.
Okay. So it's less about achieving a specific outcome
Exactly.
and more about the process itself.
Yes. It's about letting go of that inner critic
Yeah.
and allowing yourself to experiment freely.
And that can lead to breakthroughs in your technique,
It really can.
even though you're not focusing on technique.
It's funny how that works.
So you're saying just by messing around with wire,
Uh-huh.
I can actually get better at making actual jewelry.
Sounds counterintuitive,
It does sound counterintuitive.
but it's true.
It sounds too good to be true.
Well, think of it this way. When you're playing, you're more relaxed.
Right.
You're more open to new ideas. You're less afraid to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And that freedom allows you to try things you might not even attempt if you were super focused on creating that perfect piece.
Right. Like when you're trying to force creativity,
Yeah.
it just doesn't flow.
It doesn't.
But when you're relaxed and just having fun,
Uh-huh.
that's when the magic happens.
Exactly. And as you play with the wire, you start to develop a deeper understanding of its properties. You learn how it bends, how it reacts to different tools,
Yeah.
and you start to discover your own unique way of working with it.
So that's what the material means by mastering the wire.
Yes.
It's not about controlling the wire.
Right.
It's about developing this feel for it.
Yes, like a partnership almost.
It's a partnership.
Yeah.
So the more you play with wire,
Uh-huh.
the more it becomes an extension of your own creativity.
That's what the source emphasizes. Yeah.
Wow. That's a really cool concept.
Yeah.
It's like you're not just bending wire. Great.
You're having a conversation with it,
You're speaking its language.
and through that conversation,
Yeah.
you discover your own artistic voice.
Exactly. And that's the real power of wire play.
Hmm.
It's not just about improving your technical skills. It's about unlocking your unique creative potential.
So how do we actually incorporate wire play into our creative routine?
Okay.
Is there like a specific method or exercise our listeners can try?
Yeah. The source actually offers a great step-by-step guide to getting started with wire play.
Okay, perfect.
So first, you want to choose a wire that's inexpensive and readily available.
Makes sense.
So something like copper wire
Yeah,
is a great option
right.
because it's affordable and easy to work with.
You don't want to feel like you're wasting precious materials when you're just playing.
Exactly. You don't want that pressure.
So you've got your copper wire.
Yeah.
What's next?
Set the mood,
Okay.
put on some music or a podcast,
Yeah.
whatever helps you relax
Yeah.
and get into a more playful mindset.
Remember, this isn't about intense concentration. It's about letting go and having fun.
Wire chill music. No pressure.
That's it.
Sounds like my kind of creative session.
Right.
All right, so we've set the mood.
Yes.
Now what?
Now, this might sound a little counterintuitive,
Okay.
but the source actually recommends starting with a little bit of structured practice.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I thought this was all about letting go of structure.
It is ultimately,
Right.
but this is about easing into the playfulness.
I see.
So you can think of it like an athlete stretching before a big workout.
Okay.
It helps you get a feel for the wire and the tools.
So take a few minutes to warm up your hands by
Exactly.
mimicking basic techniques.
Yep, like loops, swirls, figure eights.
Okay, but don't get too hung up on perfection.
No, this is just a warm-up.
Right.
Just a way to get those creative muscles limber.
So once we've done our warm up,
Yeah.
Then it's time to unleash our inner child and go wild.
Exactly. Take a piece of wire, any length, any gauge, and just start experimenting. Bend it, twist it, coil it.
Yeah.
See what shapes and forms emerge organically.
I love that.
The only rule is that there are no rules.
It's like giving yourself permission to break free from all those expectations.
Yes.
And just explore the pure joy of creation.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
While you're having all this fun,
Yeah.
you're actually developing valuable skills without even realizing it.
It's like the source says.
Yeah.
And this quote really stuck with me. While you're playing with wire,
Yep.
you'll be learning to master the wire so that the wire doesn't master you.
I love that quote.
Me too.
It perfectly captures the essence of wire play.
Yeah.
It's about developing a sense of fluency and confidence with the material.
Right.
And moving from a place of hesitation and self-doubt to a place of creative freedom and mastery.
And it's not just about technical mastery.
No, it's not.
Right. It's about developing your own unique style.
Exactly. Yeah, it seems like when you get so caught up in trying to replicate designs perfectly, you kind of lose a little bit of yourself.
You do.
In the process.
Yeah, and I bet that leads to like way more interesting and innovative designs in the long run.
Absolutely, because when you're not bound by these preconceived notions of what wire jewelry should look like, you just open yourself up to a whole world of unexpected possibilities.
That's true.
You might stumble upon a new technique,
Right.
an unusual shape, a combination of textures you never would have thought of before.
So it's almost like wire play is like a form of active research and development
I love that.
for your own jewelry making.
Yes, it really is like conducting your own personal experiments with the wire. And the more you experiment, the more you refine your understanding of what works, what doesn't, what really excites you.
It's like you're building this vocabulary of shapes and textures.
Yes.
And then you can use that vocabulary
to
create your own unique sentences.
I love that analogy.
Which are your jewelry designs.
Yeah, and the beauty of it is that it takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
You know, you're not striving for perfection.
Right.
You're just exploring, you're discovering.
And speaking of discovery, our source mentioned something kind of interesting about copper.
Oh, okay.
It says that some people believe that copper jewelry can help with arthritis.
Interesting.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it kind of speaks to this broader idea that our creations can have an impact beyond just the aesthetics. So whether or not there's actual scientific evidence to support that claim, I think it highlights how people imbue certain materials with meaning and associate them with properties.
Yeah, it's like adding another layer of intention to your work.
Exactly.
Like, okay, I'm not just creating something beautiful, but maybe I'm also creating something that could potentially have a positive impact on someone's well-being.
And even beyond that, it brings up that idea of the connection between the maker and the wearer. You know, if someone believes a piece of copper jewelry can help with arthritis, it might make them feel even more connected to that piece and to the person who made it.
And that kind of ties back to the idea of individuality.
It does.
Doesn't it? Like each piece of wire jewelry carries this imprint of the maker's unique journey.
Their experiences
and beliefs.
Absolutely. And that's what makes handmade jewelry so special. It's not just an object. It's a tangible expression of someone's creativity and their connection to the craft.
It's fascinating how this simple material like wire can be so powerful for self-expression.
It is. And that idea that just by playing with wire, we can unlock so much creative potential is really inspiring.
So for our listeners who are maybe feeling a little stuck in a creative rut, or intimidated by the world of jewelry making, what's like the one key takeaway you'd want them to remember about wire play?
I think the most important thing is to approach it with a sense of curiosity and a willingness to experiment. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Embrace the unexpected.
Love it.
And most importantly, have fun.
Such great advice, because it's so easy to get caught up in the pressure.
It is.
To create something perfect. That we forget to enjoy the process.
And that's where the magic is.
And that's where the magic is.
Exactly. And I think our source sums it up beautifully. With that line. Wire jewelry making rules are only half the story.
Oh, yeah.
It's acknowledging that technique is important.
Yeah.
But it's the infusion of your own personal style and that playful spirit. That really brings your creations to life.
It's like the difference between reading sheet music and actually improvising a jazz solo.
I love that.
You need to know the basics. But the real magic happens when you let go.
Yes.
And let your creativity flow.
And find your own voice within that structure.
And wire play is a fantastic way.
It is.
To discover that voice.
Absolutely. It's about giving yourself the freedom to experiment, to push boundaries, and just discover what truly resonates with you as an artist.
So as we're wrapping up our deep dive into wire play,
I
want to circle back to something you said earlier about the source encouraging us to think beyond just creating a finished product.
Right.
How can listeners apply that concept to their own wire play sessions?
I think a helpful way to kind of shift your mindset is to focus on the sensory experience of working with the wire. So really pay attention to how it feels in your hands. The sounds that it makes as you're bending and twisting it, the way the light reflects off of the surface.
It's like turning your wire play session into this mini meditation on the material itself.
Yes. And by fully immersing yourself in that sensory experience, you start to develop a much deeper understanding of the wire's properties and how it responds to your touch.
And that understanding, that intuition will ultimately lead to more creative and expressive jewelry design.
Absolutely. It's about trusting your instincts and allowing the wire to kind of guide you.
So let's get practical for a moment.
Okay.
Let's say one of our listeners is brand new to wire jewelry making.
Right.
They've never even picked up a pair of pliers.
Okay.
What advice would you give them?
I would say start by just familiarizing yourself with the basic tools and techniques.
Okay.
There are tons of great resources online in libraries. But don't get bogged down in trying to master everything perfectly right away.
It's about finding that balance.
Yes.
Between learning the fundamentals and allowing yourself that freedom to experiment.
Exactly. Once you have a basic understanding of how to manipulate the wire, set aside some time for pure wire play.
Okay.
Choose some inexpensive wire. Put on some relaxing music. And just start exploring.
And don't worry about creating anything good or Instagrammable.
Exactly. Just focus on the joy of playing with the material.
Right.
Allow yourself to make mistakes. That's how you learn and discover new possibilities.
And who knows, you might stumble upon a technique or a design that becomes your signature style.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of wire play. It's a journey of self-discovery as much as it is a creative practice.
So you don't need those fancy tools.
No, you don't.
Or years of experience to create something beautiful and meaningful.
It's true. And, you know, maybe that's why that quote about the rules being only half the story really stuck with both of us.
It did. It really did.
I think it really gets at the heart of what we're talking about here.
Because it acknowledges that, technical skill is important. But it's only one part of the equation.
It's not the whole story.
The real magic happens when you bring in, your own personality, your own perspective to your work. And that's what wire play allows you to do.
It's like the difference between following a recipe and creating a dish from scratch.
Okay.
So you can follow the instructions perfectly.
Right.
And you end up with a decent meal. But it's when you start experimenting with the flavors, the textures, the ingredients, that's when you create something truly special.
Right, something unique.
Yeah, something that reflects your own personal taste.
And I think that's what our listeners are looking for.
I think so too.
That sense of personal fulfillment.
Yeah.
The joy of creating something that's like uniquely theirs.
I agree. And I think wire play is just a great way to tap into that.
It is.
It's about giving yourself permission to explore, to make mistakes, to discover what truly inspires you.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Ooh.
I know we've been talking a lot about the process, but I'd love to see what you all come up with.
Yeah.
So here's the challenge.
Okay.
This week, set aside some time for a wire play session.
Perfect.
Gather your materials, put on some music that gets those creative juices flowing.
Yeah.
and just see where the wire takes you.
Have fun.
Don't worry about making anything perfect or Instagram worthy.
Don't worry about it.
Just have fun and experiment.
Experiment, yeah.
And if you're...
Until next time, happy crafting.
Happy crafting, everyone.